The most advanced Brazilian speaker of English that I ever taught was an American literature buff. He had read more American novels than I ever did, even though I did high school and college in the States. Well, my father in the 1970s, living here at this farm, spoke only Portuguese all day long. So how was he going to keep up his French? There was no internet at the time. The only way he could do so was by reading. He would read at least one French novel per year during the decade of the 1970s. And that was enough that when he decided to interview for a job in a French-speaking country, and his French was tested by the interviewer, he passed with flying colors and got a great job. So these two examples illustrate the importance of reading, not only as a goal in your language acquisition journey, but as a crucial means to that goal. Now, listening and speaking and writing are all very important as well. They work synergistically with reading to advance your fluency as quickly and as solidly as possible. But today I want to focus on what makes reading itself so valuable in language acquisition. Now, human language is incredibly complex. That's why even in 2021, with our supercomputers and advanced deep learning algorithms, computers still have not mastered human language. If it were enough to memorize a bunch of vocabulary, thousands of words, and all the grammatical rules that can be documented, then computers would have mastered language a long time ago. But it's not enough. Because in addition to the tens of thousands of words you need to learn to achieve mastery of a language, and the dozens of connotations that each of those words can take on in different contexts, there are countless lexical combinations and endless nuances to grammatical structures and manners of expressing ideas that underlie language that, again, are just practically infinitely complex. And so you need to learn patterns. You need to get all of this into your brain, which fortunately, your human brain is uniquely equipped to learn language, but you need to absorb these patterns. This endless input needs to get into your brain somehow, and the best way to do that is through reading. The written language tends to be more precise, more elegantly constructed, and more richly varied than the spoken language, especially if you choose your sources well. You can pick up a book anytime at your convenience, read on your own, and you can choose whichever topic happens to be of greatest interest to you at that time. So this combination of quality, quantity, and topical variety is what makes reading, more than any other way of studying a language, just the best way, again, to get all that input into your brain and get you started, and far along, actually, on the road to fluency. So now I'm going to talk about 6 great ways to read yourself to language mastery, starting with 2 of the most important ones. So number 1, literature. Devour literature. You know, if I had to single out one approach to language acquisition, just one, it would be to read literature in great quantity, listen to the audiobooks, write essays about what you're reading, and then discuss what you're reading with native speakers who correct your speech and correct your writing as well. Literature is engaging, it's powerful, it draws you in. You can dive deep into a book, on a weekend all day long, and just have an incredible linguistic immersion. And that's what I recommend that you do. Having a great book by your bedside, it's like hiring the native speakers with the greatest command of the language to be at your beck and call at practically no cost at all. Now, what do you do when you're just getting started with a language? Well, to begin reading anything, you're going to need to learn a few hundred words at least, and learn some basic grammatical structures in the language. In future posts and videos, I'm going to tell you all you need to know about what I call this first semester of language study. But even after you complete this first semester of language study, you're still not quite ready for Charles Dickens, or Victor Hugo, or Machado de Assis, or Gabriel Garcia Marquez, as the case may be. So how do you get there? How do you get ready to consume top-notch literature in the language that you're studying? I'm going to talk about two great ways to do that. One is through using graded readers. So graded readers are available in many languages, and what they are, they're adaptations generally of literature from that language, but they can be about anything really. The point is that they use a limited scope of vocabulary and also limited grammatical structures to make them more accessible. And they come in different levels, so you can start with the easiest graded or structured readers and then progress on to higher and higher levels until you're finally ready to take on the real thing, the real, authentic, original literature. Now, even better than graded readers, in my opinion, is children's literature. The difference is that children's literature was written often by great authors and can be of incredible quality. So it's just as accessible as graded readers, but a lot more interesting and linguistically enriching as well. You can start with the simplest picture books and gradually work your way up towards chapter books, and finally read literature that's aimed at maybe late or early teens, or children who already had a pretty good level of reading, but it's still a step away from maybe Charles Dickens or James Joyce. So literature, dive into it, immerse yourself in it, and you will be much more than halfway towards incredible level of mastery of the language that you're studying. And you'll have a great time doing it and just be culturally enriched as you do. Second approach to reading your way to language mastery. Read up on your interests, passions, and goals. If there's a problem that all of us share practically nowadays, it's lack of time. So once you have sufficient motivation to learn foreign languages, and you know the basic approach to get there, what's going to hold you back is time. So you're going to need to learn to kill two birds with one stone. Now, this is essentially the number one secret of mastering languages for life. It's to, whatever you're going to do, whatever you want to learn about, read about, and listen to as well, in any way, do it in the language that you're studying. Do it in your target language. Is there something that you need to learn a lot more about because of your work? Or is there some hobby that you're always interested in getting more information about? Well, instead of researching that in your native language, do it in the language that you're trying to gain greater mastery of. Now, you may object. You may say, but if I, instead of studying in my native language, I read in the language that I'm still not 100% fluent in or haven't mastered completely, I'm going to take longer and I'm not going to learn as much. That may be true. And there may be cases where you really need to read in your native language. But you should keep in mind a couple things. Number one, the more you do it, the more you're going to close that gap. And over time, there'll be little difference in your ability to absorb and in speed also of study in your target language. Number two, there are so many important collateral benefits to studying up in a foreign language. You're getting a unique cultural perspective, a different point of view on the thing that you're studying. And this research shows that this helps you overcome cognitive bias and even become a better decision maker. It also literally increases the size of your brain and, of course, your brain capacity. So I'd say the advantages greatly outweigh the disadvantages. I'm going to, in the next video that I publish 2 weeks from now, I'm going to talk about 4 other great ways to read your way to mastery of foreign languages. So make sure you check it out. And if you need any suggestions on graded readers, using children's literature, or killing 2 birds with one stone, reading up on your interests and your passions in the language that you're studying, let me know, especially if your target language is English, Portuguese, Spanish, or French. I will be more than happy to get you started.